of getting it lined up. Compressing the spring, and these are little valve cotters, little keepers. They get lost. The first opportunity they get, they will get lost. Therefore, they go in the magnetic parts tray. And then it's a matter of releasing the pressure. We'll do one valve at a time. So there's the washer, the valve spring, the valve, and the infamous seal. And a keeper on the other side. And the valve guide. Sometimes they need a little attention too. So we'll buff the valve off. This bike ran well, so I don't expect there to be any pitting or, real compression loss through the valves, but we'll clean it up and lap it. So years ago we bought a little jar of Permatex valve grinding compound, and as you see, I'll be a very old man by the time I use that up. But anyway, without knowing what I'm doing, I just put a little valve lapping compound, just a fine abrasive, on the valve. And I should watch a video on YouTube sometime to see how this is actually done. Now I know you can get a suction cup that you do this sort of thing with, but I'm fairly lazy. So what I will do, just run the drill slowly, with a little bit of pressure back on the valve. And I would go both ways. And because the compound will probably get taken off the seat, good to push a little back in. And with any luck, we'll have a near perfect sealing surface for that particular intake valve. 5 km is what's cast, that's the casting. So we'll clean all the valve compound out of that bore, out of the intake tract, and we'll reassemble that valve so we don't lose the pieces, and repeat 4 more times. Here's our Winderosa gasket kit, top end kit. Still retails 83 Canadian, probably about 10 bucks in the United States, but hey, that's where we live, man. One, two, fumbly job. I should have this head in a vise. And the manual suggests a little tap with a low impact mallet just to make sure the cotters are seated. No way they can come out of there. There, 3 down, 2 to go. So we finished up the valves in the cylinder head and threw it in the solvent bath just to loosen up any pollution in it. And went to the post office yesterday, and I thought my wife had bought me some really cool HP LaserJet dual pack print cartridges, which I don't think our laser printer, we don't have a HP laser printer except for the old one I got in my office. So turns out it's our cylinder back from Rec Supply. They supplied a Wiseco piston and sent it to R&L Cycle in Saskatoon to be bored out, and those guys smoked it off in like a day. Really happy with that service. So we'll see what we got. I always love how they pack stuff. It gives me something to start fires with. Anyway, there is the completed project. They supplied a piston and fit the bore job to the piston, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if you can see in there, but absolutely perfect. I have total faith in what those guys do in there. and cleaned up really nice, so that's cool. Now they don't give Wiseco pistons away. What we get is a new ring set, and I'm so happy they always give us a new tobacco pouch. Wish I was still into tobacco, but it is a nice product, and like I say, it's fitted to the cylinder, so whatever the skirt clearance is, I leave that up to the machine shop. And the kit comes with a wrist pin and circlips and the whole bit, so we're always pleased with that. But I just love that tobacco pouch. So the Wiseco kit, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Wiseco comes with a bit of an instruction for the oil ring, and I appreciate that. We installed the rings and evenly spaced the end gaps around the cylinder, 120 degrees apart, and put one circlip in carefully, made sure it's sitting in the groove right and where you can get at it. So we're about to put this back together. So we've cleaned the gasket surface. It actually came off really nice. It's a metal base gasket. First we'll reinstall the all-important dowel pins, which sometimes get lost. Sometimes they're stuck in one side and sometimes in the other. From our Windorosa kit we have a new base gasket, and there is an up and a down to these. It looks symmetrical, but it's different on one side to the other. So we have to slide this through the timing chain. Over the cam guide, chain guide, without buggering our new gasket up somehow. There. Should sit down right on top of the engine block, so there. We'll take a clean cloth and lay it in the bottom of the engine, sort of clean cloth. We do have a tricky situation to do. Now the piston, because it's a zero clearance engine, what I call zero clearance, there's grooves in the piston cut for the valve openings. Also there's an arrow which points to the exhaust, and we know there's 3 intake valves and 2 exhaust valves, so that's the way that guy wants to sit. So it's simply a matter, we oiled the top of the connecting rod, and it should be sitting at top dead center, so all we got to do is, now there's no needle bearing in these, not like a snowmobile, so piston pin, thankfully it's new and it slides right in. Now the trickiest part is getting the little circlip in, and for that matter it would be better if this engine was out on a workbench for this part, but we'll go for it. I fully expect to lose this circlip, so we'll lay some cloths and give us a chance of finding it when it goes sprung. Gracie blessed me with some new cloths here this week, so kind of like surgery, isn't it? So I'm sorry for the camera angle, but the circlip fits in where the wrist pin goes and snaps into the groove. And we're not at top dead center anymore. I thought we were. That engine is sitting at top dead center. It'll make it easier to get the clip in because there's more clearance. So as you noted, when the air compressor was running, the circlip actually snapped in really easy, thank goodness. So the next step is to drop the cylinder onto the block. And we've got our wrist pins in. We'll remove the cloths, just like a doctor leaving the sponge in your gut. You want to have that. Dowel pins are in. Gasket surfaces are clean, so we can drop it in. We just got to thread the timing chain through the cylinder. Now we oiled the inside of the cylinder surface and blew air through. I'm sure it came clean from the machine shop, but never know. So this is tricky. We've got to compress the piston rings one at a time and get the cylinder down over that. Now I don't have a piston ring compressor that fits around that cylinder. I've got one that goes from the top for something with a connecting rod that's split, so this will take a little doing. Here, that block I built for two-stroke work. That will probably help. Yeah, that's the top ring in. Whoops. Okay, that's the second ring in. Now the oil ring and retainers are pretty flimsy little units, so there. It doesn't go easy. You got to back up and look again, and I see I'm stuck here somewhere, so I think the rings are happy. Now at some point we got to get our timing chain up through there. There. There, great success. Now I think we'll turn the motor over a few times with the wrench to make sure those rings are happy. Be ashamed to crack a ring or scratch that new cylinder, or both. You do have to keep some tension on the timing chain. The timing chain is not sitting on the bottom sprocket. Oh, we got a disaster now. Okay, time for arthroscopic surgery down in there. The timing chain has jumped off the bottom of the crankshaft. But we are ready to turn the motor over. No, we're not. Oh, God. We might have to put a bolt or two in there before we do that. So, okay, now I'm in a recovery mode. So the timing chain actually jumped onto the sprocket a lot easier than I had anticipated. I'm trying to turn the motor over just to test the rings, but it keeps pushing the cylinder off, so I think we'll drop the cylinder head bolts on. And I didn't look up the torque spec for these. I imagine they're fairly massive. And do we have bolts mixed up here? This doesn't look right. There. It gives us a reasonable amount of thread. Seems reasonable. So we'll go look up the torque spec on those big cylinder head bolts, or cylinder bolts. So the torque spec for the cylinder bolts is 30 foot-pounds. So I'll start at 20. Whoops. We'll give them all a little better snug first. This is not the greatest torque wrench. Came from Princess Auto, which is the Harbor Freight of Canada. There's 20. So we'll step it up dramatically to 25. I cleaned the threads of the bolts and oiled them so they're not jerking when you tighten them. There's 25. We'll go up to 30. Seems reasonable. Now I think we have a couple of 6mm bolts down here, and they're 7.2 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds as my tool reads. So, torque the bolts, tighten the side bolts, and here's our all-important dowel pins. So we can let the cam chain tensioner front one go free again. We'll find our new head gasket. And it seems to me these are marked for up and down. But I believe they'll only go one way. The dowel pins are over here. Front and rear bolts. I'll give her a shot. Now here we don't want to lose the cam chain down the bore again, so we'll slip the gasket over him, hook him back up. Looks like we have all the bolt holes open that we need. I wish that would sit there a little better. That gasket's a little bit wiggly. So our rebuilt cylinder head, solvent bathed and blasted, valves lapped, valves new seals installed and cleaned up, so looks like new. Again, we'll have to slide it over the cam chain. If I hit my accursed poor bald head on this, the catch for the box again, it'll be too soon.